गुरवे नमः। चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति सपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतिषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone back. We are looking at the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sripad Ramanujacharya's commentary. So we will begin once again with the summary verse. So we will look at 2 verses. Yeah. So I'm just muting everybody just so that, you know, by mistake. Yeah, during QA, I'll allow unmute. Okay. So we'll just look at 2 verses of Yamunacharya, and then we will go to the Gita commentary. So this is the Gita Artha Sangraha of Sripad Yamunacharya. And so what he has done is, he has summarized entire Gita in the first verse, first 6 chapters in the second verse. Okay, so since we have looked at almost 6 chapters, now many of these verses will start making sense. So please have a look at the verse here. So the first verse he says is Swadharma Jnana Vairagya Sadhya Bhakteka Gocharaha Narayana Param Dharma Gita Shastre Samaritaha. So he says Gita Shastram or Bhagavad Gita is directed towards Sriman Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Swadharma Jnana Vairagya, that means Krishna uses, he says Swadharma, Jnana and Vairagya as some means for ultimately talking about Bhakti Eka Gocharaha. You know, so he's saying that the central theme is Bhakti, but then he's using these, Krishna is using these other themes as Sadhya, you know, and focusing on Param Brahma Narayana. Anyway, then most importantly, the second verse, which talks about the summary of the first 6 chapters, Jnana Karmatmike Nishte Yoga Lakshye Su Samskrite Atmanubhuti Siddhyarte Purva Shatkena Chodite. Okay, so Purva Shatka, this means the first 6 chapters. And what is the purpose of first 6 chapters? He's saying Jnana Karmatmike Nishte. Krishna is speaking about the paths of Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. But why is he speaking that? Yoga Lakshya. For the purpose of, I mean, Jnana and Karma is being spoken with the goal, Lakshya of Yoga. This Yoga is the Dhyana Yoga, which is the 6th chapter. Okay, so that means this Karma and Jnana paths which have been described in the initial chapters till the 5th chapter, the purpose of that is to come to Dhyana Yoga of the 6th chapter. Atmanubhuti Siddhyarte, for self-realization, to understand the self, Purva Shatkena. So this is the purpose of the first 6 chapters. So this is how he is summarizing 6 chapters. And then, you know, he's summarizing each chapter also. So we will look at the 6th chapter summary that he talks of, and then jump into the verses. So this is the summary of the 6th chapter, verse 10. Yoga Abhyasa Vidhi Yogi Chaturda Yoga Sadhanam Yoga Siddhisva Yogasya Paramyam Shashta Uchyate. So in the Shashta means the 6th chapter, Yamunacharya says there are 5 themes. Yoga Abhyasa Vidhi. The first theme is how to do yoga. Okay, so this is in the first 28 verses of the 6th chapter. How to do Dhyana Yoga has been described by Sri Krishna. Okay, Yoga Abhyasa Vidhi. The second theme is Yogi Chaturda. This we saw last time, if you remember, correct? The 4 types of yogis. And I mean, I'll just revise that also briefly. These 4 types of yogis, which Krishna talks from verse 29 to 32, were in the increasing order. In fact, if you see the verse also, it is very clear. Like in verse 32, what is Krishna saying? If you see, he says, Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yediva dukkham sa yogi paramo mataha. So in verse 32, he says, this is param, that means param means topmost. So 4 types of yogis Krishna is talking. In 29, he is talking about the yogi who sees all atmas as same. That means he sees every living entity as same. Okay, on the platform of eternality, etc. Then in the 30th verse, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Chamai Pashyasi. So that means there, Ramanujacharya says that Krishna is talking about the yogi able to see the similarity between him and Paramatma also. So there is some similarity between. So Samatvam. So this is all in Samatvam only. Okay, so this theme of Samatvam was already introduced in the 5th chapter, if you remember. In some ways, it is going ahead, right? Samatvam. So there you're seeing. But in 31st verse, he's talking about, Samatvam at the level of Jnana as well. That means even more evolved Samatvam between the Atma, Paramatma. And finally in 32, so in 32, if you remember, this was the topmost yogi, where what basically Krishna says, Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yediva dukkham. That means Krishna is saying that one who sees others' happiness and distress, okay, one who sees his own happiness and distress the same way as he sees others' happiness and distress, he is the topmost yogi. So please note the language used by Krishna here. Okay, so he's not saying that you should see others' happiness the way you see your happiness. Okay, he's saying that that means it's like this. If your neighbor or someone is undergoing a suffering, how much are you disturbed? If you ask, the answer is you're not disturbed so much. Okay, because it's not affecting you. So Krishna is basically saying that is how you must see your own situation also. Okay, so it's not the other way. It's not that because I am too happy when something nice happens with me, I'm supposed to feel the same happiness when something happens to somebody unknown. No, Krishna is saying that what the happiness and distress that you feel when something happens to someone else, that is what you should feel when it happens to yourself also. Basically, that means you're supposed to go beyond the duality. So this is the topmost yogi, Samatvam. So if you remember, all these verses were about Samatvam. Okay, in fact, this verse will keep coming again and again. Samatva Yoga. Okay, so this will get proved. So this is the second theme of the 6th chapter, Yogi Chaturda. So these 2 themes you have already finished. The third theme is Yoga Sadhanam, okay, which we will do today. Yoga Sadhanam means the important parts of yoga. The 4th theme, which also we will do today, Yoga Siddhi. Yoga Siddhi means how do you attain success in yoga? Krishna is, so it's a very nice conversation and we will see some points. And finally, Yogasya Paramyam. What is the topmost thing that you can achieve in yoga? Okay, so all this is Shashta Uchyate. So it's a very beautiful summary. I like these verses because I felt that the summary is amazing. The way they have summarized an entire chapter in just one shloka. So it's kind of easy to remember and map. Okay. So now what we will do is we will go into the verses, right? So we will go into the verses and start discussing. Okay. So we are right now at, we are right now at 33. Okay. So in this verse number 33, Arjuna raises a question, and that is where it all begins. So look at Arjuna's questions. Arjuna Vacha, Yoyam Yogas Tvaya Prokta Samyena Madhusudana, Etasyaham na Pashyami Chanchalastvā Titim Sthiram. Chanchalatva Stitham Sthiram. Okay, so Arjuna, see, look at this word that he is using, Samyena Madhusudana. Samyena means the yoga which was basically spoken by Krishna till now is called Samyena Yoga. Samyena means what? Seeing everything Samadarshi. The same theme which was started in 5th chapter, Krishna had spoken till 32. Because even in the previous verse, Krishna said that you should see your suffering the way you see others suffering, which means negligible. Don't be overwhelmed too much. So this is called Samyena Yoga. Okay, the yoga of equanimity, you can call that in English. So this is the yoga of equanimity. This is Ashtanga yoga only that brings you to that level. Okay, and if you remember the first 30 verses also, which we described about 6th chapter, which is Yama, Niyama, all that, the focus is one meditates on the Atma, and one in this way progresses. So this is this yoga system which Krishna is speaking here, which Patanjali also speaks in his Yoga Sutra. So this is Samyena Yoga. So Arjuna is raising a question. Okay, so now what I will be doing today is I will actually be using the translations of Sripad Ramanujacharya. I'll be projecting that. I think I did that last time as well. So we will continue that thing, because, and also I will, I'll try to be very brief with every word so that we go a little bit quickly, because also because many of the concepts which Ramanujacharya speaks, very similar things we have already learned from, Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. So I'm speaking only on the differential quotient, so what is different? I'm only touching that, because what is same is already known. I'm pretty sure that whoever is hearing has already gone through Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita several times. Okay, so look at this translation which Ramanujacharya gives. It's a very interesting translation. I don't know what is the chat about. 1 second. Is the voice breaking for all? Oh, really? I hope not. 1 second. I think I'm on my best broadband. So can someone confirm if it is clear or if it's a problem? Okay, someone else has said voice is clear, so I hope so. Okay, so look at the translation over here, which he uses, Ramanujacharya's translation. He says, Arjuna is asking, hey Madhusudana, that which yoga which teaches us to perceive all things of having the same essential nature as ourselves and also as Supreme Paramatma, which was instructed by you, I am unable to see how this yoga can be steadily practiced for long, due owing to the restlessness, fickle nature of my mind. So this is how the translation is. Okay, so so the most important thing in this translation, which is kind of interesting to focus, is Samyena. Look at this. Ya ayam yoga Samyena. Samyena means that yoga which tells us that there is a similarity between us and Supreme Paramatma, which Krishna had instructed. This is Samyena Yoga, which is what happened till the previous verse. I'm sure all of you recall our discussion. So Krishna is saying this is, Arjuna is saying that I'm finding it difficult because chanchalatvat. So this is the key word here, because of the fickleness of the mind. Okay. Because my mind is chanchala. And he's addressing him as Madhusudana. So Ramanujacharya says this Madhu and this general demons in general, they embody Rajoguna, Tamoguna. That's what these demons stand for. And since my mind is Chanchala is due to Rajoguna. And just like Krishna, you destroyed Madhu very easily. Similarly, you can help me overcome my problem of Chanchala. That is why he's using this word. Okay. Now, another interesting thing is Chanchala. So how do you interpret Chanchala? So Chanchala doesn't mean, so sometimes when we hear the word Chanchala or restless mind, we think that the mind is restless when we are sitting for meditation, correct? I mean, that is one understanding of the word Chanchala. That if I'm sitting for some meditation or if I'm sitting for chanting, my japa daily, then because my mind is Chanchala, my mind takes me away from spiritual meditation or the Lord's meditation or the focus on his holy names. It takes me away from there to some mundane things. This is the general understanding of Chanchala that we all have. Ramanuja gives another interpretation here, which is like a continuation of this theme. He says that Chanchala means not only that during spiritual meditation we are distracted, but even in material objects we are Chanchala. Even in material objects we are Chanchala. So an example is given, just like a child is with one toy. He has one toy, but the child is not satisfied. He says, I want another toy now. Okay, so he already has one toy. This material object is there with him to give him some pleasure. But for some reason, he's not satisfied with just one toy. He wants a second toy as well. Okay, so similarly, all of us are in this world. So this Chanchala applies not only to spirituality, but it also applies, it first applies to material things. That means, so Arjuna, what he's saying is, Hare Krishna, my mind is not fixed even in material things. That means even in material things, I'm Chanchala. One object we get, we feel I want another object. then what to speak of Paramatma and what to speak of the meditation that you are saying, focusing on Atma and seeing the equality between Atma, Paramatma, and seeing this Samatvam and all this stuff. Okay, this is going to be very difficult for me, he says. Okay, and then of course, so then let's move on. The next verse, which is the 34th verse. One second. Yeah. Yeah. Chanchalam him anakrishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayo riva sudushkaram. Right. So he's saying, hey Krishna, the mind is certainly by nature always unsteady, being very powerful, and is very tenacious to influence us to perceive worldly entities, thus overpowering us to the contrary. Therefore, I think that subjugating such a powerful mind to practice yoga, which will result in the Samadarshanam, is utterly impossible for a weak person like me, just like how it is to control an adverse gale blowing in the opposite direction using ordinary instruments like handheld fan, etc. Okay, so this is all part of the commentary. Okay, so I'll just explain this. So Arjuna is continuing his question. He's saying, hey Krishna, this mind is not only Chanchala. Chanchala, one attribute we have already said. We already discussed Chanchala because in the previous verse itself, Chanchala had come. In the 33rd verse. In the 34th verse, Arjuna is saying it is not only Chanchala, but it is also Balavat. It's very powerful also. It's very powerful. Pramati. Pramati means, Pramati, for Pramati, Ramanuja gives a nice example. He says Pramati means it churns the mind. Okay, so he gives an example, just like Mantara churned the mind of Kaikeyi. So initially Kaikeyi was very happy, right? When she heard that Lord Rama is going to be coronated as the king. She was so glad that, oh, my son is going to be the king. But then what did Mantara do? She did Pramati. She was actually churning the mind. So Ramanuja says Pramati means to churn. Okay, so the mind has this ability to keep churning so many thoughts in it. And we have all seen this, right? We all have experienced anything that is there dwelling in our mind and the mind starts churning it, then we are finished. And if we focus on that, if we focus our attention on that, right? So that is Pramati. And not only it is Pramati, somebody may say, does it only churn? No, it is too strong also, Balavat. That means it's very strong. It can pull it in that direction. And Dhridam means, it is very tenacious. That means it takes our attention to material things extremely strongly. And Arjuna uses one more adjective here, Sudushkaram. It is extremely strong, very powerful. And for that, he's giving the example of Vayo Riva Sudushkaram. So for this, Ramanuja says, he says that there are, so of course, this will come in the next verse, but yeah, so Sudushkara means very, very strong and just like Vaya. So this Vaya example is continued in the next verse. We'll have a look at 35 as well. Yeah. So this Vaya, I'll just talk a little later. So in the 35th verse, Krishna starts speaking. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Asamshayam Mahabaho, Mano Durnigraham Chalam, Abhyasena to Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grichyate. Okay, so here, first of all, Krishna is saying, so okay, let's read the translation. Bhagavan Sri Krishna replies, O mighty armed Arjuna, the mind is certainly unsteady by nature and without any doubt difficult to control. Hey Kaunteya, however, such a powerful mind can be subdued through continuous practice on contemplating the superior qualities of the Jivatma and thoroughly detaching by frequently discerning the evils in impure material entities. Okay, so we will elaborate this verse. So Asamshayam Mahabaho. So Krishna is saying, yes, certainly, it is very difficult to control the mind. So for this, Ramanuja uses one term. He says Satyamiti Ardhangi Kale. That means, sometimes a person in our discussion also, we are talking something to somebody. We all have this experience, right? He says something. The person says, oh, this is so difficult to do. This project is so difficult to implement. Someone may say in a company meeting. And the manager may start saying, yes, certainly. Okay. So that means that first part is accepted, that this project is difficult. For that, you are saying certainly. But then that doesn't mean that you have accepted that it cannot be done at all. No, that's not the interpretation, correct? So similarly, he says here that when Krishna is saying asamshayam mahabaho, that means he's accepting the first part, that yes, it is difficult, but it doesn't mean it cannot be done at all. Okay, so how can it be done? So two things he's saying, abhyasa and vairagya. And this is what Yamunacharya is calling it as yoga sadhanam. Yoga sadhanam means the two key aspects of yoga. So please remember, this is currently applying to Ashtanga yoga, but it will apply to Bhakti yoga as well, or any yoga system. Okay. So what are these two aspects? First is abhyasa. Abhyasa means what? He says, keep thinking of the nature of Atma. That means your mind is certainly pulling you, and it has the ability to make you focus on material objects because of its chanchala nature and because of Rajoguna Tamoguna. But Krishna is saying the yogi, he should do abhyasa. That means he should constantly keep thinking and contemplating on the fact that I'm different from this body. I'm an Atma, and I have so many good qualities as an Atma. I'm not bound by karma. The Atma is originally not affected by any of the gunas, right? I'm a part and parcel of Krishna. So all these are the qualities of Atma, which one has to consciously meditate on. So just like, those of us who do deity worship, we know this, that in our temple, when in the temple standard deity worship, we have something called Manasa Puja. Before we actually go into the altar to dress the deities or something, outside we have to sit and do Manasa Puja. And in that Manasa Puja, the first part is all this only. You have to keep thinking. There are prayers written, like I am by nature the eternal servant of the Lord, but somehow I have misidentified myself with this material body, due to which I am currently conditioned by the three modes and this and that. And now I have this opportunity by the grace of Guru and Krishna to engage in the service of the Lord. So let me focus on that reality of mind, that I am an Atma separate from this body. So like this, there are prayers which are written in English, and also there are some Sanskrit prayers like Naham Vipro Nachanarapatir, and so on and so forth. So every pujari has to do Manasa Puja. And actually in all sampradayas, it is said that this Manasa Puja is more important than the real puja, literally. That means in the mind, one has to actually focus on the fact that I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul, and now I am engaging in my service to Krishna, which is what a Bhakti Yogi is doing. But Krishna is talking the same thing here. This is the Abhyasa. Abhyasa means continuously you have to keep thinking about the nature of the Atma. Okay, so this is something that every yogi has to do. We have to contemplate on that. And Vairagya means, he says, keep meditating on the dosha of material objects. So that is how Ramanuja describes Vairagya. That means keep meditating that material objects have doshas. What are the doshas or faults? Three faults. First thing he says, they are temporary. Second thing, they are difficult to obtain. And third thing he says is they give a lot of pain as well, even if you obtain them. Okay, so he says this way, material objects have three doshas: temporary, difficult to obtain, and pain as well. Even if you obtain it, there is a pain. Yohi samsparshaja bhoga, all those verses you've already seen in 5.22. So this is the Vairagya aspect. That means you have to do two types of meditation. Meditation on the Atma and meditation on material objects. But meditating on material objects means not from an enjoyment perspective, but from the perspective of the doshas of it, by the faults in it. So he says a yogi has to do this. If he does this, then it is possible. So this is why this is called yoga sadhana. Okay, so this is a yoga sadhana. So this is important for every yogi. If he doesn't do it, the mind can take it away. And we have all seen this also with devotees as well. With all of us also, sometimes we get carried away, correct? Because our mind is chanchala, we just get carried away in some direction. Okay, so it is important to have such meditation as well. And generally such meditation comes by reading the scriptures, by contemplating the scriptures. In general also, one sits and just like, we do in that Manasa Puja, sitting before we start worshipping, we are just internally contemplating who we are, why we have come to this world, and how we are now stuck in a particular fashion and so on. So these kind of meditations are actually considered very practical, and every yogi is supposed to have this in some part of his life. Okay, so that is how Krishna is presenting here. Right. Going ahead, in 36. Now in 36, Krishna is elaborating the same theme. Okay, 1 second. I'll just go to the verse, the Sanskrit one. Sometimes that's kind of a little bit easier to see. Yeah, so we have done 34, 35, 36. असंयतात्मना योगो दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वश्यात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुम् apayatah. So this is verse number 36. Yeah, so here it is only in Roman, so I just went to the Sanskrit. The yoga of realizing equality of all individual selves. So please remember, here the word only is yoga, but Ramanujara's translation is the yoga of realizing equality of all individual selves, because this is what Krishna has spoken earlier. It's very difficult to attain by those whose mind is not controlled, is my conviction. However, one who has performed karma yoga and as a result brought the mind under one's control, thus is able to perceive with the practice of yoga and capable of attaining perfection in yoga. Okay, so it's a very long translation. So we'll spend some time understanding. So Krishna is now elaborating the answer, how it is possible. So the upaya, okay, so the key thing is this upayatah. This word upayatah, Ramanuja translates it as karma yoga. Now the question is, why does he do that? He's doing that because this upaya is what has been spoken in the last 6 chapters. So consistently in the 3rd chapter, 4th chapter, 5th chapter, 2nd chapter onwards, when Krishna started speaking, he's primarily till now has spoken about karma yoga only as the upaya. Correct? He has not spoken anything else. Only now in this chapter he has spoken about sitting and meditating. But that meditation was for a karma yogi. And if you remember, that's why when we started discussing 6th chapter, the first was also anashrita karma phalam. Correct? That was also karma yoga only. So this word upayatah means karma yoga. So karma yoga with all its varieties. If you remember, we have seen in the 4th chapter, Krishna is talking about 13 varieties of karma yoga. Worshipping devatas, doing sacrifices, giving objects in charity, right? So on and so forth. So many different types of karma yoga Krishna has spoken. Krishna has spoken characteristics of karma yoga deeply in 3rd chapter, 5th chapter. So that is called as upaya. So that upaya, it is said that upaya is related to vashyatmanah. So this word vashyatmanah also Ramanuja makes Ramacharya gives a lot of importance to it. Vashyatmanah means as a result, one gets the mind under one's control. Vashyatmanah. Here Atma is the mind. So Vashi means to get it under check. So the idea is that if somebody does this upaya, which has been discussed in such great detail in the first 6 chapters of Gita, by and large, the main advantage of karma yoga, you may recall, which we spoke again and again, was reduction of rajoguna tamoguna. Okay, so that is why, if you remember, even when we discussed 3rd chapter, we had made this point. Why does this whole concept of rajoguna, lust, everything is discussed in the 3rd chapter? Because karma yoga is a solution for that. That is why it had come, that whole discussion of kama yesha, krodha yesha onwards. That entire discussion, 3rd chapter was there because karma yoga is considered as a solution to that. Okay, so this is the upaya which Krishna has spoken consistently in the first 6 chapters. So Krishna here is saying that with that upaya, one can do vashyatmanah. If you do the karma yoga properly, then only your rajoguna, tamoguna will be pacified, and then your mind and senses will be under check. And once that is there, then this abhyasa and vairagya is a top up. Okay, so the abhyasa vairagya, which Krishna has spoken in the previous verse, is like a top up. I mean, it is on top of this karma yoga. When you do that, abhyasa means sitting and focusing on the nature of the Atma, how it is eternal, how it is a part of God, how it is not contaminated by matter, etc., and focusing on vairagya, understanding the object. So these two are top up on this upaya of karma yoga. When that is done, then it can be possible. So that is what Krishna is saying. Avaptum shakyaha. That means one is capable of attaining the perfection in yoga. Correct? So this is how Krishna describes this particular verse, right? So this is the yoga sadhanam part. So the yoga sadhanam part has been covered in this particular section, right? So now we will just go into the next part of the 4th part of this particular chapter, which is essentially centered around yoga siddhi. That means how does one achieve success in yoga? And again, the verses are very beautiful. And as I said earlier, I'm focusing only on the additional points made by Ramanujacharya here. Right? 6.37. Arjuna vacha ayati shraddhaya peto yoga chalati manasa aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim Krishna gacchati. Arjuna is asking. Look at the translation here. Arjuna is asked, hey Krishna, a yogi who has embarked on practicing yoga with a lot of enthusiasm, but lacks the determination to practice diligently and loses interest later on without achieving the culmination of yoga, which results in Atma Sakshatkar, whose mind has drifted away from practicing yoga, meets with what fate? Does he attain heaven or liberation or hell? So this is the translation here. Beautiful translation again. So let's focus on some important words here in the 37th verse. So Arjuna's point here is that, see, what is happening to someone who started but lacks the ayati. Ayati means who lacks the determination to practice diligently. Because Arjuna has understood by now that this whole yoga process that Krishna has described, it's a very tricky one. Somebody may start, but later he may lose enthusiasm. Okay, and then when he loses enthusiasm, aprapya, without achieving yoga samsiddhim, that means he doesn't come to that samatvam and atma sakshatkar and all the way. What has happened with him? Where does he go? So Ramanujacharya says, why he is asking this question? Because Kam Gatim, what fate he attains? Because see, to achieve heaven, the Shastra says that one has to do various karma with the consciousness that I want heaven. So the point made here is, who achieves heaven generally? Somebody does some Jyotish Toma Yaga, or there are various these what we technically call karma kanda sacrifices. Various types of sacrifices exist in the Vedas by which one can go to heaven. But one has to do these sacrifices consciously with the understanding that I am doing this because I want heavens. If you don't do it with that consciousness, you don't get heaven. That is what the Shastra generally says. Arjuna's point here is that our yogi is a karma yogi. And karma yogi means what? He does it without aspiration for fruit. So let us say somebody is a karma yogi and he also did some yagyas or something as part of his daily life. But when he was doing all these yagyas, he was not thinking that I am doing it because I want heaven. Right? Because we all know karma yoga means he does it as an offering to Vishnu. Yajnartat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. So Arjuna's thought is, this fellow did yagyas, did many things, but he did not do it for heaven. He did it as a something to please Vishnu. Correct? As per 3.9 Bhagavad Gita. That is the yogi which Krishna has been speaking till now. He is not, the yogi is not supposed to do a sacrifice thinking I want heavenly planet. He is supposed to do it as an offering to Vishnu. So if he has done it like that, but then later, for some reason, he lost the determination and he went away, how will he get heaven now? Because heaven you will get only if you did consciously that I want heaven. Otherwise, how will you get heaven? That is why heaven. Then the question is, how will he get liberation? Because he has not completed yoga. That is what he is saying here. Aprapya yoga samsiddhim. The yoga path is not complete only. How will he get liberation? Liberation, you can see it as moksha, going back to Godhead, Vaikuntha, Goloka, whatever. Correct? How will he get liberation? And the question is, does he go to hell? Because, why the hell is coming here? Because there is this concept also in the Shastra that if you start something, you must complete it. If not, there is a chance that one can go to hell. Okay, so this especially applies to actually karma kanda sacrifices. If one starts something, then one has to complete it. Otherwise, one gets stuck. Okay, so Arjuna is having this question: what's going to happen to this person, right? So whether he goes to heaven, whether he is liberated, whether he goes to hell, right? So he's asking. Now, why is he asking? This is elaborating. Arjuna is speaking 3 verses about this. Okay, look at the next one. Kachitna ubaya vibras chinnabhram iva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudo brahmanapatihi. Okay, so look at what Arjuna is saying. O mighty and Krishna, thus one who has got confused and strayed away from the path of yoga, which results in attaining Atma Sakshatkar, and since he performed his works as karma yoga without aiming for paltry benefits, heavens or similar, hence he is left without any support to enjoy such fruits of his virtuous deeds. Hence he has fallen from the means for both Atma Sakshatkar and material bhogam. And like a scattered cloud, does he not perish? Okay, so beautiful, way of putting it. So Arjuna is saying that, see, what has happened is there are two paths. One path is going towards the heavens, which is done by those who are karmis, so to speak. The other path is towards moksha, spiritual world, etc. Our yogi who is there, he started everything with a good intention that he wants the path of moksha. But then what happened is his desires were like the wind. So this is the example here. So these are two set of clouds, the Swarga and the Moksha. And the desires are like a wind which pushed him away. And now he's neither here nor there. Okay, he cannot get Swarga, as he's saying here, because he did not do it thinking he wants it. And neither can he get Moksha or spiritual world because he has not completed the path. So what happens to him? Okay, so does he not perish? So that is Arjuna's question. And the next verse is again extremely beautiful. Etan me samshayam Krishna chetu marhasya cheshatah twadanya samshayasyasya chetana shupapadyate. Okay, so hey Krishna, you can eradicate this doubt of mine completely. Other than you, O Lord Narayana, cannot be qualified. Other than you, cannot be qualified to be the dispeller of this doubt. I mean, anyone other than you, O Lord, no one can dispel this doubt. This is how Arjuna is putting it to Krishna. Now, why does he put it? Okay, so Ramanacharya quotes one Vedic verse, which is very interesting. So Ramanacharya says that most of us in this world, we understand things by Anumana Praman primarily, he says. He says in this world, among Pratyaksha Anumana Shabda, most of us, we employ most of the time Anumana Praman only to understand things, which is correct also, if you carefully think about it. Because I mean, in this world also, Pratyaksha, very less we get things, right? Everything is Anuman only. Even if you open a news channel and you're observing some debate and all, it's all Anumana. They are all making various hypotheses based on some event that has happened. They are thinking which political party, why they are doing. They're making all these guesses, right? So he says, primarily in this world, we understand things by Anumana. But one characteristic of Lord Krishna, it is said, he understands things by Pratyaksha. Okay, so there is one verse in the Vedas which says, Yo veti yugapat sarvam pratyakshena sada swataha. That means it says the Lord has this amazing, glorious quality that everything he can see pratyaksha. That means the difference between us and the Lord is we make Anumana. Somebody was a nice man, he died. We make an Anumana. He was a nice man. He did nice karma. Most likely he went to the heavens or whatever. Or somebody was a sinful person. Then we make Anumana. Oh, this person did so many sinful activities. Most likely he went to hellish planet, etc. So in either case, if you carefully see, what we are doing is we are making Anumana only. But the Lord, it is said, Yo veti yugapat sarvam pratyakshena sadaswata. He can see pratyaksha. He knows everything by pratyaksha only. That someone actually he's seeing that Atma going to the heaven, or another fellow, he's seeing him going to the hell. So for the Lord, he doesn't have to do Anumana Praman, it is said. He does everything pratyaksha only. Okay, and that is why here in this verse, Arjuna is telling that, oh Krishna, only you can dispel this doubt. Because who else has pratyaksha praman about people who have departed? Okay, so that means we are talking about this yoga prashta category. So who else has seen anybody dying? I mean, that's what materialistic people also allege, right? Are you are saying that by doing all this bhakti, you will get good benefit in the next life. Who has seen all this? Because the fact of the matter is that all of us in this world, we are doing Anumana Praman based on certain understanding, which is fine. But the characteristic of the Lord is he has pratyaksha. So because of this, he exactly knows. He has seen hundreds of or thousands of cases of yogis in the past who started the path but who could not complete it. Okay, so because he has seen and he has pratyaksha awareness, he is most qualified to answer this question because, right, he has seen it. He is not just doing some anumana. Okay, so this is the purport he has given to this verse, which I thought is very interesting. Right, so now Krishna's answer begins from text 40. Okay, so look at this. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Partha Neveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyanakrit Kaschid Durgatim Tata Gacchati. Okay, so look at the translation. Hey Arjuna, of the person who has embarked on the path of yoga but strayed away from that path, there does not exist any loss for him, as in not being able to attain enjoyments in heaven or other desires in this material world. or being able to attain Atma Sakshatkar. Oh dear one, anyone who embarks on practicing yoga, which is auspicious in every way, certainly will never meet with any deplorable end. So beautiful verse. So Krishna is first of all giving a confidence. He is saying that, hey Arjuna, that's why he is calling him as Partha. Partha because Partha means he is his aunt's son, right? Arjuna is the son of Krishna's aunt. So he's saying that, so he's using a very dear term to basically say that I love all my yogis, just like I love you, Arjuna. Okay, nobody is Nasham. This word Nasham, when he's saying Partha Naiveha Vinashas, Nasham, he says Nasham generally means, Nasham means to be destroyed. But here he says Nasham means to be defeated. So when Krishna is saying Vinasham Tasya Vidyate, that means my yogi, he will not be defeated. That means Nagachati. This will not happen with him. That means Durgati. He doesn't get Durgati in the present tense. Krishna is saying here. Nahi kalyanakrit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. So Krishna, this is an assurance giving us. Krishna is giving an assurance to all the yogis. Arey, don't worry. Anybody who has done something good, nahi kalyanakrit kaschit, he will, so it will never happen that such a person who began yoga and even if he fell down, whatever, it will not happen that he is going to be lost. This will not happen. So this is a very, very wonderful verse, which is, giving a hope and assurance to everyone. Okay. But Krishna, in the next verse only, Krishna is going to give details of what he is going to say. Okay. Now these details are also very interesting. So in the first verse, in the 42nd verse, Krishna is saying, Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha sujanam shrimatam gehe yoga prashto vijayate. We'll read this verse. A person who has been set out on practicing yoga, but strayed away from it, attains the worlds attained by those who have done huge amounts of meritorious deeds. There he lives and experiences auspicious, superior enjoyments until he's satiated. After that, he gets born in the house of pious persons who have attained Atma Jnana and who have good qualities, Atma Guna. So we will need some elaboration for this verse. So let's spend some time on it. So Krishna is saying now what happens to such a person, right? So what happens to such a person? So now we all know, Prabhupada also says this, and the same thing Ramanujacharya says here, that there are two types of yogis who fall away. One who falls away after doing little yoga, and the other who falls away after doing a lot of yoga practice. So in 6.41, Krishna is talking about the yogi who falls away early. And in 6.42, he's talking about the more mature yogi. Okay, so first thing he's saying here, the emphasis on this verse is Punya Kritan Lokan. Punya Kritan Lokan means Krishna is making it clear that he attains Swarga. Okay, so somebody will say, Are, how did he attain Swarga? Because to attain Swarga, you have to do so many sacrifices, correct, to achieve Swarga. And we discussed previously also that not only you're supposed to do sacrifices to attain Swarga, but also you have to do sacrifices with the consciousness that I want Swarga. So this fellow has not done that. Perhaps he has not even done all the sacrifices to go to Swarga. And neither was he thinking that I want Swarga, because initially he was a Karma Yogi, right? He started yoga thinking that I will do it the way Karma Yoga is. But then later he got distracted. Okay. So then how does he do that? So the answer is that this is the greatness of the yoga process itself. Without doing the punya for Swarga, he attains Swarga due to the power of yoga itself. Just by doing yoga, he attains Swarga. Now the question is, how long will he be in Swarga? Okay, so general answer is, you are in Swarga till your punya. How much punya you have done, so much only you can be in Swarga, right? That is the general answer to people who go to Swarga, correct? Krishna also says that in a later verse. We will see that Kshine punya martya lokam vishanti. When your punya is over, you have to come back to this world. This is for general people who go to Swarga. But this fellow is not a general category guy, right? As a general category, I mean, he has not gone there because he did yajna to go to Swarga. He is a fallen yogi and he has gone to Swarga. Okay, so the question is, okay, he goes to Swarga, but for how long? So that is why this word is important. Shashwati Samaha Ushitva. Shashwati means, Shashwat literally means as long as he wants. That means now Krishna is so much considerate to this yogi that he's sending him to Swarga for as long as he wants to be in Swarga. Okay, till he's satiated, that means till he's satisfied. Now he only has to feel, then only he comes down. So see, this is the greatness of the path of yoga, right? So this is a very interesting commentary here. Then after that, what happens to him? He says Suchinam Shrimatam. So Suchinam Shrimatam, one translation, of course, we know is Brahmanas or rich Vaishyas, correct? But then he has given another translation also here. Pious people who have attained Atma Jnana and who have good qualities, Atma Guna. Shrimata means he has translated it as not necessarily rich in money, but rich in qualities. Okay, in such families, this person takes birth. Why does he take birth like that? So that he can continue yoga nicely. Now all his aspirations are filled up. He has gone to heaven, enjoyed there as long as he wanted. Okay, now he is also bored of sitting in heaven. So he has to come down to the earth. So when he comes down to the earth, either in Suchinam or Shrimatam. So you can look at it as Brahmana family, Vaishya family, or you can look at it as persons who have Atma Jnana, Suchinam, and those who have good quality. Shrimatam means rich in qualities, not just in wealth, rich in quality. So he comes down. Okay. Now Krishna is now talking about the advanced yogi. Atava yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam etadhi durlabhataram loke janma yadidrisham. Or if he had strayed away from yoga practice at an advanced stage, he's born in the family of esteemed and knowledgeable scholars, dhimatam, yoginam, and practitioners of yoga. Both these types of birth mentioned in the previous and current shloka in this world are certainly very rare to obtain by the bound souls having no taste for liberation. Right? Beautiful translation again. So look at the understanding. So Ramanujacharya says this advanced yogi, atava, this phrase atava, Ramanujacharya says this applies after going to heaven. So that means he says that the fallen yogi always goes to heaven, and then from the heaven when he comes down, either he is born in Suchinam Shrimatam Gehe, if he is a neophyte yogi, or if he is an advanced yogi before he fell down, then he will be born in a family of advanced yogis. Okay, Etadhi Durlabhataram. So he is born Dhimatam. So these are the words that are really to be focused on. Dhimatam means very intelligent and accomplished in yoga. Okay, and Vyavasthita Vikalpam. That means so basically there are two lines here. Okay, so either every fallen yogi goes to the heaven, has a good time for how long ever he wants. Then he comes down, two options, either Suchinam Shrimatam or yogi family. He's born. That's how he describes it, right? So yogi, then he is, he's born like that. Okay, and this is very, very rare birth. So at this point, it's also important to say that many times, when we quote about this Chaturvaranyam, we use this verse, right, from 4.13, Chaturvaranyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha, where Krishna says that Varnas are based on Guna and Karma. And sometimes we use that verse very strongly to say that birth is not important. But interestingly, in the Gita, environment is important, prayatna is important, and birth also has its own set of importance, as we see in this verse. Okay, so if birth was not important, then Krishna wouldn't have said that such a person will be born in Suchinam, Shrimatam, Gehe, or Yogi family. So being born in a certain type of family also indicates a certain past because of which the person has had, either it is karma or it is yoga bala. In any case, it indicates something that he is coming in a particular family. So it's unfortunately in today's world, sometimes it becomes too fashionable in a liberal sense to smash out anything related to birth and just say that everybody is equal and so on. But if you, and sometimes we also selectively use verses in the Gita. Correct. So Gita, certainly in one place it says Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, that by quality and work your Varna is known. But in these verses, Krishna has also said, born in families like Suchi, Shrimatam, or this yogi family, means that this person has something in the past. Otherwise, he will not be born. So both these understandings we have to keep in mind. We cannot use one to cancel the other. Okay, so this is another important point. Another important point to be said here is, maybe I have not covered this, but a similar concept Krishna has already spoken in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 2.40. Neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate svalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhaya. In that verse also it is said, Krishna is basically giving the same assurance which he has given here. That anyone who is a yogi, and please remember that yogi which Krishna spoke in 2.40 is about a karma yogi who is practicing some meditation or some yoga system, correct? So that is what Krishna was speaking about in the second chapter. So that applies to again all classes of yogis. So such people, Krishna is saying, such people, there is no loss for them. Neha Vikramana Sosti. Even little bit, if they do something, then Trayate Mahato Bhayat. They get so much of, they are saved from so much of fear and they get so much benefit. In fact, as we go ahead, we will see some more verses where Krishna is giving even more benefits. And, it really makes us wonder that, my God, goodness, so much benefit is there, for a yogi. We will also be surprised. We will see in the final set of verses of this particular chapter, right? The same thing being elaborated. So going ahead to 6.43. Okay, so 6.43, 44, 45, 46. So we are going ahead now. Okay, so 1 second. I just see the word. Yeah. So in 6.43, basically, so why is now Krishna going ahead? So please try to understand. What did Arjuna ask? Arjuna had asked, what happens to the fallen yogi? Till now, Krishna has only said where he is going to take birth. But how he advances in yoga, that Krishna has not said. Correct? So that Krishna is going to say now. In the 43rd verse, Krishna says, Tatratam buddhi samyogam lavate paurva dehikam yatate chatato bhuyah samsiddhau kuru nandana. Correct? So it's a very interesting verse where Krishna is basically saying that the experience and jnana of a yoga is with the yogi. Okay, and that automatically comes with him with this life. Tatratam buddhi samyogam. Buddhi samyogam means there is this connection. Labate paurva dehikam. In the past, whatever he has done, yatate chatato bhuya samsiddho guru nandana. So that means Krishna is basically saying that experience of a yogi, right? So see, just amazing characteristics. So just try to imagine, even Nishkama Karma Yoga, if somebody consciously practices in this life, that experience, that knowledge with your practicing even Nishkama Karma Yoga, what to speak of Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, all these things, that is always there with the person. Okay, and it carries life after life. So this is the beauty of whatever Krishna is speaking in the Bhagavad Gita, right? From Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga onwards. Once a person starts practicing these in his life, these experiences are going to be with him even in the next life. Okay, that's the point being made here. It's something amazing, right? Because generally we think that any skill that you acquire in this world, it ends with death. So this applies only to skill that you acquired with the body. Like someone was learning how to sing, or maybe some other skills which are primarily with the body, cook, or drive a car, or maybe write a computer program, whatever. Okay, so they will end with this body. But the concept of beginning with the concept of Karma Yoga and going up to this yoga process with Krishna described in the 6th chapter, just by practicing this in this life and whatever samatvam you achieve, even if little bit, you have this understanding and practical implementation where you are trying to see yourself, your children, your neighbor, people equally, and not, kind of seeing too much difference between me and them, etc. These kind of experiences and knowledge are with you permanently. This is the beauty of this, right? And then what happens? Purvabhyasena teneva hriyate havashopi saha jignasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. Okay, so here, this is again a very beautiful special commentary. I'll read the translation and then speak about the commentary. He says here, that person by virtue of his past, in previous birth, interest in practicing yoga is verily attracted towards yoga in this birth automatically, even if he has no desire to exert himself towards it. Even a person who has desire to simply understand about yoga transcends this samsara. So Ramanujacharya, beautifully, how he discusses these verses, he says the two lines in this verse are to be seen differently. The first line which is there now, that is a continuation of what has been discussed till now. Purvabhyasena teneva hriyate havashopi saha. That means the first line indicates that he's pulled into yoga automatically. That means this yogi in this life, he doesn't have to struggle too much for yoga. Okay, so this is where we can understand. Some of us, sometimes we feel that for us, everything in our bhakti is a struggle. But for some people, it becomes very easy. So from this verse, we can understand that for those whom certain aspects of bhakti yoga or any yoga is easy, indicates that they have this fortune of carrying something from the last life. That is why Kriyate, look at that word, avashopi. Avasha means even if he has no desire to exert himself, I mean, without much endeavor, he's pulled into yoga system. Bahut aasan hai uske liye yoga karna. Okay, and the dhyana yoga commences. In this chapter, it is dhyana yoga, but it applies to bhakti yoga and everything else. Right? Now the second verse is even more interesting. So this is actually something I request everyone to pay attention. Jijñāsurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. See, till now what was Krishna talking? Krishna was talking about a yogi who started the path of yoga and fell down. That was Arjuna's question, correct? But now Krishna is going one step ahead, saying, Are, not only someone who started yoga and fell, he will get benefit, but Jijñāsurapi yogasya. Jijñāsurapi means even if someone had jijñāsa, a desire to understand about yoga system. Please try to understand. Jijñāsurapi yogasya means isne yoga nahi kiya. He's not like the other two category who struggled very hard to do yoga system and prospered. Usko sirf ek inquisitiveness tha, Are, what is this yoga system? So, when I was reading this verse, I was quite happy because I was just reflecting many times when we preach. Okay, many times when we preach in our, what shall I say, in some colleges or some place, sometimes we have a very fruitive mentality, right? We think that itne log bakat ban gaye and all that. But when I was looking at this verse, I was just thinking that when you preach to someone, sometimes it may happen that at that time that person may get some jijñāsa. Later he may not continue, he may not become a devotee, quote unquote. Correct? Jijñāsa is somehow awakened in his system. But such a person also has going to have some benefit. Okay, he has not started anything. Such a person, what is his benefit? Jijñāsurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. Shabda brahma here means, Shabda Brahma means this samsara. Shabda Brahma means all objects in this world have names, right? That is why it is called Shabda Brahma. Why this world is called Shabda Brahma in this translation is because this world is Brahma and Shabda means everything in this object is referred to by names. Actually, in the Bhagavatam second canto also there is a verse which says that this world is a place of names. Everything has names. People have given many names to many things and they get attracted to it. Prabhupada has given a very nice commentary also to that. I'm not going into that right now, but that is Shabda Brahma. This world is a place of Atak Kavi Namasu Yavadartha. That is the verse in the Bhagavatam. Syada Pramatto Vyavasaya. So Shabda Brahma. So Krishna is saying that such a person who has jijñāsa about yoga, he also transcends this world very soon. The Jijñāsu is much lesser than the other people. Even he has benefit. So Arjuna asked one question, but Krishna is not only answering Arjuna's question, but Krishna is going ahead and giving confidence even to a person who is much lower than that. Okay, so that is the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, now we are going in the last 2-3 verses. We will complete this chapter today. Prayatna yatamanastu yogi samshuddha kilpishaha अनेक जन्म सिद्धस्थो अनेक जन्म संसिद्धो ततो याति param gatim. Okay, so look at the translation here. Therefore, such being the greatness of yoga, being purged of sins through collection of merits earned over many births, who is now diligently applying himself to practice yoga by controlling his indriya, such a yogi, even if he has fallen astray from the yoga in the previous births, in the next birth he completes yoga to its fruition and attains the highest goal of practicing yoga, which is Atma Sakshatkar. Okay, so this is like a summary of whatever Krishna has spoken in the last few verses. Krishna is saying that such a person gets the highest gati of Atma Sakshatkar after many births. So I was just thinking when I was seeing this verse that sometimes, we as devotees and we get sometimes a little impatient with situations. We feel that very quickly we need results. I was in a program recently with some devotees, Radhesham Prabhu was addressing. So many of the devotees, they were all Grihastha devotees. So they were all asking, our children are not taking to Krishna consciousness so much. And this question was asked by 2-3 people in that class. So when I was seeing this verse, I was just reflecting. Sometimes we get a bit impatient about it. We feel that our children, we give them Krishna consciousness in their childhood, and by the time they're 16 or 17, they should be chanting 16 rounds and coming to Mangalarti daily and so on. They are expecting sometimes too quick from people, right? But in this verse, Krishna is basically saying that this entire yoga system, it is something that Aneka Janma Samsiddhi, it takes several births for most people, right? So there is something about, so one has to be patient with ourselves and with others as well. While we do whatever we can do best for ourselves and for others, we have this attribute of patience as well, where we don't, what shall I say, we don't think that immediately, very quickly, something should happen. So sometimes we run into a lot of impatience. And here in this verse, we can see very clearly, Krishna is saying that Aneka Janma Samsiddhi, through benefits, merits that has earned over many births, Yatatmanaha, who is diligently applying himself to yoga, Prayatna, he is controlling his senses, such a yogi. Who is this yogi who fell down? Yati param, yati param gatim. That means he will complete the path of yoga. Okay, so in this way, Krishna is now completing this chapter. Actually, text number 46 is said to be the culmination of this chapter. We will see this in the next verse as well. Tapasvibhyodiko yogi jnanibhyobhi matodikam karmibhyaschadiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. So what Krishna is doing, okay, we'll read the translation. The person who engages in the yoga of Atma Sakshatkar is considered superior by me than the ascetics involved in performing just austerities. The yogi is considered superior by me than even the ordinary jnanis who learn about worldly things. The yogi engaged in Atma Sakshatkar is considered superior by me than even those who perform works aiming at attaining paltry fruits. Hey Arjuna, therefore you should strive to become a yogi as he attains the superior result of Atma Sakshatkar. So basically in this verse, what is Krishna doing? Krishna is comparing the yogi to all the other people. That there means the person who does tapasya, who does some austerities, ascetics, there's a person who is doing karma, jnana, even karma yoga or jnana yoga, even with that person also. This yogi of this chapter is superior to all of them, because if somebody is doing only karma yoga and is not doing this atma dhyana, which was spoken by Krishna in the 6th chapter, he is obviously a notch lesser than this yogi, because the whole purpose of karma yoga was to purify your existence so that you can do this type of dhyana. Okay, if you did not come to this, then you're one step below. Okay, so here actually from topic perspective, the chapter is over here only, but the next verse is a bonus. Okay, so it is just like those of us who see television serials, or we have an understanding about how television serials work, we know that every time whatever is the episode that is going to be shown in the next whatever story they are going to show in the next episode, we know that they show a trailer of that, right? In this episode, we know that they do that in TV channels. Chota uska jhalak dikhate, agli baar ye hone wala hai. So like that, what is going to come in the 7th chapter, Krishna has pulled it up to the 6th chapter itself in the most famous verse. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayukta tamomata. Compared to the yogi engaged in attaining Atma Sakshatkar, and even to all those mentioned in the previous shloka, that is tapasvi, jnani, karmi, all these people, the one whose mind is completely focused on me due to his infinite love for me and is intensely eager to attain me, worships me with a lot of affection, such a person is considered by me as the greatest of all yogis, as is engaged in yoga to attain the supreme self, Sriman Narayana, which is the greatest Purusha. So Ramanujacharya concludes the 6th, 7th chapter by saying that. So why Krishna is putting this verse? Because you see, there were many types of yogis discussed in this chapter, right? If you remember, yogi chaturda, char type ke yogi and all that. So Ramanujacharya gives a nice example. He says the 4 types of yogi that Krishna spoke in this verse, these yogis are all like apple tree, lemon tree, different trees. And there you can have a comparison. Oh, apple tree is bigger than the lemon tree and bigger than the, this tree is the coconut tree and all that. But the bhakta, he says, is like the Meru mountain. The Meru mountain is much, much bigger than all these trees. There's no comparison only. So similarly, he says that the bhakta who is there, which is now going to come from the 7th chapter onwards, he is the topmost of topmost of all these yogis. So that is Krishna, and Krishna very humbly is saying, this is my opinion. Okay, so he's repeatedly saying, Krishna is saying, this is my mataha, it is my opinion, Krishna says. But as devotees, we all know that this is like, this opinion is the topmost. So this is yogasya paramyam. Okay, so now if you go back to that verse of Yamunacharya, which I have now again projected on the screen, you can understand. Yogabhyasa vidhi yogi chaturda yoga sadhanam yoga siddhisva yogasya paramyam shashta uchyate. 5 topics in the 6th chapter. How to do yoga, 4 types of yogis, the sadhana in yoga, which is karma yoga, topped up with abhyasa in vairagya, yoga siddhi, how to achieve success in the yoga, and yogasya paramya, the topmost yoga system. All this Krishna has spoken in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In this way, we have at this point completed the 6th chapter. So we will now take some questions and then end the day. One second. I don't know where it happened. Okay, anybody has any questions? Any hand raised up? Nobody's hand. Yeah, Vaibhavanand Prabhu. Okay, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Piri. What a beautiful, it gives a lot of hope also. I just wish to ask that, for example, somebody, you're saying that he is allowed to, one who has just started the yoga process, he is allowed to remain in the heavens for as long as he desires. But
Yes.
the point is, after he comes back, most of us or most of the people in the world do not remember anything of the past. So again, the desires to, be in the very, aristocratic lifestyle, still persists. So, okay, somebody may have better inclinations, but the attachment to the material world does not go away so easily. So, and why, he's forced towards, practicing yoga system. So these are my 2 questions.
Yeah, I understood. See, that is why the idea here is, one second, just 1 second. Yeah, sorry, just give me a second. I just need to connect my charger. Yeah. Yeah. So see, the point here is, that is why in that verse it said, na, Shashwati Samaha. Shashwati Samaha means he can be there till he is, actually he says till he's fed up. That means till he's satiated, as in fed up. Matlab, bas ho gaya abhi ye sab. See, please try to understand, he's a yogi, right, in the past life. So after being a yogi, when he goes to heaven, initially he may find it very nice, but then ultimately he starts comparing with his experience of yoga, and he feels that what is this, sitting in heaven and enjoying all this stuff? I'm bored of this. So when that thought comes, only he's coming down. So that was the commentary of Ramanujacharya here. Shashwati Samaha, he elaborates on that word. Shashwati Samaha means jab tak usko chahiye, tab tak baith sakta hai, jab tak he's bored of it, satiated, abhi nahi chahiye mujhe. Okay, then he has to come down and start yoga. So the understanding is that when he comes down, and also that experience he is carrying with him. He may have forgotten the incidents, but in the other verse that comes now, in text number 43, if you remember, we saw that verse also. Text number 43 was in Tatratam Buddhi Samyogam. Buddhi Samyogam means so sab connection uska jam gaya abhi. Okay, he labate Paurva Devikam. So he may have forgotten the incidents. So we know the story of Bharat Maharaj who became Jad Bharat. He remembered his past. But our yogi may not always remember past life memory. But even if he does not, that experiences are there with him. So with such experiences, it is but natural that he will now practice yoga. And if you ask the question again while practicing yoga, again if he desires, then what will happen? Then I think we can safely infer that he is just stuck in that loop. He has to again go to heaven, again come down, practice yoga, again go, again come, like that, right? He has to loop in that. But then we understand that the taste of yoga is such that at some point this person will feel that enough is enough. I better focus on my yoga rather than focusing on this enjoyment in heavens. So that's the point. Does that answer?
Yeah. So, which is this yoga? This is
Ashtanga yoga.
yoga.
So one second.
Okay.
See, these verses are about Ashtanga yoga, but they apply to Bhakti yoga also, na? See,
Okay.
they apply to all yoga systems. See, currently
Okay.
we are talking about Ashtanga Yoga only, in the 6th chapter, where Bhakti Yoga has come now. Arjuna is talking about the yoga that you just spoke. Which was the yoga he spoke? Samatvam. How to see everybody equally. For that yoga also Krishna is giving, other than what to speak of a bhakta. So that is how we
Hmm.
can take it ahead. Correct?
Okay.
So,
So,
so
you know,
this
one more
applies to
thing,
all
Prabhuji.
yogis. This applies to all yogis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more thing, like, we are practicing devotional service in a very non-conducive and, a dharmic kind of, from the Vedic perspective, little adharmic situation. We do a lot of, adharma or ugra karma. We are part of, Prabhupada used to say ugra karma. So, does these all things also will be seen by Supreme Lord or the nature as, all these activities, whatever we do in our daily lives, these do not apply to us, they don't affect to us in any way. And we are actually promoted to the higher realm. Is that so, or so
See,
how it is?
if you ask the question for that, Krishna has very clearly said. So if you remember our 3rd chapter discussion, Krishna had said, right? If you remember 3rd chapter, Yamunacharya's summary was what? He says, what is that? The verse he uses is that Loka Sangraha, right? So Loka Sangraha, anything done should be done for the benefit of people. Remember that? Right?
Yes.
In fact, one thing, let me just go to that verse. How did I forget it? Yeah, asakta loka rakshaye guneshwarope kartirtam. Sarveshwareva nyasyokta tritiye karma karyata. If you remember Yamunacharya's summary also, he says asakya, it should be done detached way, loka rakshaye. It should be done for the benefit of the world. So Krishna's Gita is very comprehensive. Right? Krishna is talking about karma yoga, which is done for benefit of people. Ugra karma is not counted in that. And on top of that, there is Ashtanga yoga. When one does that, then all these things are there. Okay. Now, in our case, I agree with you that sometimes things may be complicated because what somebody may be doing may not be so much for Loka Sangraha, or we may drop some aspect of it. Correct? So we may not be somebody, I'm not saying we in general, everyone, but somebody may not be working you work for. In fact, Krishna speaks the opposite also in the 16th chapter, that it's a demoniac nature to work to destroy the world. That means destruction of the world by any type of activity. Krishna calls it demoniac, if you remember. I mean, if you know about 16th chapter Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
So Gita is pretty comprehensive in the way it presents. But our case is kind of slightly mixed, right? I mean, there are mixtures in our own practice or whatever.
Yeah.
I would say that certainly, there is some sincerity of the purpose as well. So whatever a yogi or devotee may do to the best of his situation in this world, Krishna will certainly give benefits to that as well. Krishna wouldn't say, okay, this aspect you did not follow, so I'm not going to give you benefit for anything. Krishna is not that kind of a Lord. So that part is there. But at the same time, yes, it is the responsibility of as devotees as well for us to see how we can act in ways that are more beneficial to the world. Because Krishna has said that. You must act so Krishna has said both ways. Krishna has said, 3rd chapter, 20th verse, you must do things for the benefit of world. And in 16th chapter, he has said, if you don't do things for the benefit of world, then that is considered as ugra karma or demonic nature, etc. So I think it's everyone's duty individually and collectively to see how to work towards it.
Okay. And how do Krishna see, these are the positive aspects. How do Krishna see the wrong activities done by his devotees?
Okay, so that will come in the 9th chapter, where, if someone does anything wrong, if it is accidental, then Krishna forgives it. Krishna says, okay, fine. But if someone repeatedly does it, then Krishna has his own way of punishing and bringing them back to track. We will discuss that in the 9th chapter.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Haribol. Yes, who else? Yeah, go ahead, Prabhuji. I've unmuted.
Krishna, thank you, Prabhuji. So I had a question in the context of Shabda Brahma you mentioned. So, like as you mentioned, this material world is world of names, all the objects have names. So what is the case of spiritual world? Whether the objects don't have name or why that is contrary?
Yeah. So the thing is, one second. So there is this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Atak Kavi Namasu Yavadartha. This word is considered a place of names in the sense that, one second, let me just think why it was called that. Just give me a second. I did read that purport for a long time. Just one second. Does anyone remember that verse, Atak Kavi? Prabhupada has given a very nice commentary. Namasu Yavadartha. Yeah, 223. It is opening up. Yeah, I'm just trying to read Prabhupada's purport here. Prabhupada is saying that those who are captivated by the illusory advancement of material civilization are madmen. The whole material creation is a jugglery of names only. In fact, it is nothing but a bewildering creation of matter like earth, water, fire. The buildings, furniture, bungalow, and so on and so forth are simply bewildering names of material elements with the reaction of the three modes. Since the devotees of the Lord knows them perfectly well, he is not interested in creating unwanted things for a situation which is not reality. One second. Therefore, the transcendentalist. I had come across an answer for this. Just one second. Yeah, what is the translation? For this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for minimum necessities in this life, wild in the world of names. Atak kavir namasu yavadartaha syad apramatto vyavasaya buddhihi. So this is 2.2.3 Bhagavatam, where it says that the enlightened person should endeavor only for those things which are minimum while in the world of names. This you are asking in spiritual things, there are no names to anything. Huh? The point is, even in the spiritual world, if there is a thing, there are names for something. Abhinatvam nama naminaha. There is no difference between the names and the named. Right? So there are these two things, names and named. That there is a name and there is a name, like Krishna. The person Krishna and the name Krishna. There is no difference between the two. But in this world, when we say it is a place of names, these are all, there is a difference here, right? So it is that name which is given itself creates some illusion and some attraction to something. So I think that's how I see it.
So what I understood, like as you mentioned, like there is no difference between name and named object in the spiritual, but name exists there. No, like doesn't mean like name is not existing in spiritual world.
Yeah, names exist, but this world is considered a world of names only. As in, there are only so many ideas that are there about enjoyment with various bewildering concepts, but there is nothing in it. Okay, that means like a woman, like a sannyasi wouldn't hear a name of a woman. Why it is like that? It is said because sometimes the name of a woman itself can be bewildering. Okay, so I mean, I'm not going to give you examples of names of women, but if you just like sometimes it happens also, you get an email from a lady and she's named, right? So she has sent her name, whatever it is. So even when a man reads that name of a woman itself or hears that name, then immediately there is a possibility of his getting attracted because he imagines some pleasure, something, oh, such a nice name, so something will be there and so on. So heavens, right? So it's all a concept which is there in terms of names and flowery words. Okay, so this whole yam imam pushpitam vacham. Pushpitam vacham means these are not only names and words, but they're very attractive. So it builds a big castle in our mind about how much we will enjoy with that particular thing. I think that is the main point over here, Shabda Brahma. That means
so I thought like Shabda is sound, so it's not name.
Yeah,
Shabda is sound. It is not name. So why it was translated as name? Shabda Brahma. So it is sound. It doesn't have to be, or all the sounds are name.
Yeah, no. He's translating Shabda as name here, and Brahma is the material word.
Okay, thank you.
Which is like fine. Shabda means names, ideas. See, again, what happens when we are giving a explanation in English, we may run into some conflict. So Shabda wouldn't only mean name, it may mean explanation in words. That's why I quoted that other verse from Gita, Yam imam pushpitam vacham. Right. So there also the same thing. Now, pushpitam vacham means very attractive words. Correct. Or in the Bhagavatam also that verse is there, right? About material things which are like the rubbish literature, which talks about materialistic things in very attractive words. So that is the Shabda here. So Shabda means when I translate Shabda as name in English, then I become a little limited. But if you see the broader connection, it means concepts, it means words, it means things in the material world are explained in certain ways, which are all very attractive to the mind of the hearer, like that. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Haribol. Okay, there's no other question, then we can close to that. Okay, thank you all very much. So now we will move into the 7th chapter from next time, which will be very interesting because that's the starting of Bhakti Yoga. So again, we will focus on the differential part. That means that because there are many things, as I was studying this Ramanujacharya commentary, I realized so many things which we learn in Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. They're all so similar. So I'm going to speak only on the differential part, just to save time and kind of make it a little compact. Otherwise, it will keep going on and on for a long time. Okay, so I'll just speak on the differential part, the special aspects of this commentary, and very briefly touch on parts which are by and large common. Right. Thank you very much. La Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Brahma.